This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Albert says Bobby Heenan in WCW was asked who the greatest wrestler he ever managed. Without missing a beat, he said Andre the Giant. Did Bobby go off script? How did Bobby and Vince take the news of Andre's passing? Of course, you wouldn't know what the script was, but certainly the script wouldn't call for him to put over a WWF talent. He was just putting a guy over, his friend over. But we didn't talk about how Vince and Bobby took the news of Andre's passing.
Vince took it hard. You know, they were the same age. Vince and Andre were the same age and had birthdays that were fairly close together. And Vince considered Andre one of his best friends and really hated the falling out that they had. So I think there was a little bit of regret that hadn't been completely rectified and that he didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye to his friend.
Landon wants to know, did Vince already have the idea to start the Hall of Fame before Andre passed away? Had Andre lived longer, would he still have been the first ever inductee?
At that time, we had been talking about doing a Hall of Fame, and it was unfortunate Andre's passing, but I think that kind of sped it up, because if there was ever anybody that was worthy of being the first inductee into the Hall of Fame, it was Andre the Giant.
Yeah, I don't think that's debatable. Craig says, we know how Vince felt when Andre showed up on Clash of the Champions. What did Bruce think?
You know, at the time, I thought that it brought Andre down. I thought that, you know, Andre had been synonymous with WWE and a larger product. And I thought that it just kind of brought Andre down a little bit.
It's interesting that you feel that way. We got lots of questions about this. Brian wants to know, what were the bad memories that Vince alluded to at the end of the HBO documentary? I know you didn't just sit down and watch it, so let me try to add some context to the best of my recollection. Vince obviously got really choked up talking about Andre on that HBO documentary. And he talked about how he was special. And he also talked about how their relationship got strained towards the end, and his feelings were hurt when he would show up for the UWF or he would show up for WCW. And I think you've sort of alluded to the fact that Andre's feelings were hurt and these guys were just really close to one another and just not communicating, et cetera, et cetera. Is that sort of the gist of the hurt feelings or the hard feelings, or was there more to it than that between those two?
No, I think that was it. I think that it was, they had been friends for so long, and to reach that point of not communicating with one another and to reach the point where, you know, you didn't get to say goodbye to a friend, that's just hard to do. I think that's just what he was referring to.
I'm going to ask a weird question here, so bear with me as I try to give it some context. Was Andre taking those bookings for Herb Abrams and WCW because he needed to or because he wanted to? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but sometimes we have conversations about guys who made $10 million a year and managed to spend 11 somehow. And so they just found themselves in a spot where it was easy come, easy go, their relationship with money. And later in life, they just needed the payday. Or was it a matter of Andre he was enjoying what he was doing. He wasn't ready to retire. So it wasn't a money issue. It was a love of the game. I want to contribute. I like being on the team sort of thing.
I just think it was a moment in time. And yeah, I can't speak to the Herb Abrams thing. I couldn't tell you what would possess him to have done that. However, with the WCW thing and the legend stuff, you know, Andre was close to Dusty. Andre was close to Bill Watts and Bruno and those guys. So I could have seen Dusty making that call and talking him into it. And Watts making the call and talking him into it. And Andre doing it just as a thing to do for them.
Ben wants to know, were there ever any interactions between Andre and Taker that exist in photos or videos that you know of?
Not that I know of. And I think that, Taker may have been a big guy that Andre would have liked. I think that Andre really would have liked Taker.
Bobby Rhodes wants to know, how did Andre end up in Herb Abrams' UWF?
Well, I don't know, man. I think that there was a period of time after Andre left that there were some hard feelings between Andre and Vince, and that Andre could be childlike in some ways, and just, if Andre were hurt, he wanted to hurt those that hurt him. And I think that Andre just kind of got sold a bill of goods and went and did it out of spite.
I mean, the UWF was a spite store, but that's maybe a story for another time. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.